There are moments in life when we find ourselves standing before a closed door, our hands resting upon the handle, waiting for a move, longing for it to open. We knock, sometimes with trembling hope, sometimes with the wariness of one who has tried too many times, and the silence on the other side feels heavy. It is in these moments that doubt creeps in and whispers that perhaps the door is locked forever, that perhaps the path forward is ended. But this is not the truth. Closed doors are not the end of a journey. They are invitations to trust, to wait, and to believe in what we cannot yet see. A door is not only a piece of wood or iron. It is a symbol of transition, of passage from one season to another, of leaving behind what was and stepping into what will be. Every door carries a mystery. To stand before it is to feel both the weight of uncertainty and the pull of promise. And yet, how often do we confuse a closed door with a denied destiny? How often do we assume silence means abandonment? The door you are waiting for is not beyond reach. It is being prepared for you, and it will not open a moment too late. Think of the rhythm of time itself. The sun rises not because we command it, but because it is set to rise. The tide does not come in at our request, yet it never fails to come. So it is with the door you are longing for. It is not a matter of if, but of when, and when that moment arrives, you will see that no force on earth could keep it shut. The one who holds the key does not misplace it. The one who designed your path has not forgotten where it leads. But waiting is rarely gentle. It shapes us in ways that are uncomfortable, often painful. We wonder why the silence stretches, why the walls seem to echo with no answer. Yet, in the waiting, something vital is happening. A person who is unprepared cannot bear the weight of a blessing that comes too soon. The soil must be tilled before it can receive the seed. The vessel must be strengthened before it can carry living water. If the door opened at the wrong time, you might walk through unready, unable to hold what has been given to you. So the waiting is not punishment, it is preparation. Faith is never proven by what we already hold in our hands. It is proven in the darkness, in the stillness, in the unanswered prayers. To stand before a locked door and still believe it will one day open, that is faith. To feel the cold handle that does not move and yet whisper to yourself, it will not remain shut forever, that is hope. And this hope is not fragile or baseless. It is anchored in a promise deeper than shifting circumstances. When the door finally opens, it will not be with hesitation or weakness. It will swing wide with the certainty of something long prepared. And you may find, to your surprise, that what lies behind it is not exactly what you asked for, but something greater. We are small in our imagining, and often what we think we want is only a shadow of what we truly need. The door you have prayed for may not lead to where you pictured, but it will lead to where you were always meant to go. So do not despise the waiting. Do not fear the silence. For the stillness before an opening is not a void, it is the quiet of construction, of something being built beyond your sight. Soon, very soon, the door will open. And when it does, you will understand why it was closed for so long, why the timing seemed delayed, and why the answer is always worth the wait. The nature of closed doors is one of the hardest truths to accept, because when a door does not open, it feels not rejection. We stand before it with our plans, and our desperate knocking, and yet nothing happens. Our hearts whisper, why not now? Why not me? Why not this way? It is in those moments that we can become consumed with discouragement, thinking that a shut door is a sign of failure or a signal that our dreams were foolish from the beginning. But a closed door is not always a permanent refusal. It is often a redirection, a gentle but firm hand steering us toward a place we cannot yet see. It is a reminder that the paths we imagine for ourselves may not be the paths we are truly meant to walk. The truth is that life would be unbearable if every door opened simply because we demanded it. Sometimes doors we long for are dangerous without us knowing it. Sometimes they hide burdens that we are not prepared to carry. Other times, what lies behind them would give us comfort for a short season, but would rob us of the greater blessings meant for us in the long run. The wisdom behind a closed door is not meant to hurt us, but to protect us. Imagine a parent who refuses to give their child fire to play with, even though the child insists it is fascinating and beautiful. The denial is not cruelty, it is mercy. In the same way, when you stand before a door that will not open, you must remember that what feels like denial may be protection, and what feels like rejection may actually be grace. There are also doors that are closed not forever but only for a time. We are quick to assume that silence means never, but often silence means not yet. Waiting is one of the most powerful teachers of faith. A locked door does not mean the key has been lost. It simply means the time to unlock it has not arrived. The seasons of the earth teach us this truth again and again. Seeds rest in the dark soil through winter, seemingly forgotten. And yet, in the right moment, they break through the ground, reaching toward the light. If they were forced to sprout too soon, the frost would destroy them. Closed doors work the same way. They hold back what is meant for you until the conditions are right for it to flourish. And yet, we wrestle with these doors. We push against them, sometimes exhausting ourselves trying to pry them open, convinced that we know what is best. But have you noticed that the harder you fight a door that refuses to move, the more weary and broken you become? Closed doors are not meant for you to break down. They are meant to guide you. If one path is blocked, it is because there is another ahead. If one way is sealed, it is because a better one is being prepared. Our perspective is so limited. We see the short corridor in front of us, while the entire map of the journey is hidden beyond our sight. A closed door, in truth, is a form of direction. It is saying, not here, not now, not this way. But here is the beauty in it: the closed doors teach us to listen. They draw us into stillness, into seeking deeper meaning. When everything opens easily, we become careless, assuming that life is in our control. But when a door resists, it humbles us. It reminds us that our lives are not built on our strength alone. And in that humbling, something changes within us. We become more patient, more resilient, and more attuned that whispers where to step next. A closed door is not just about blocking entry, it is about reshaping the person standing before it. It is also worth noticing that sometimes doors close because we have outgrown the space behind them. What once was right for us no longer serves the next chapter of our story. We might long to go back to a place that once felt safe, a relationship that once felt secure, or a job that once felt fulfilling. But the door is closed because you cannot remain in yesterday and step into tomorrow at the same time. Growth requires leaving something behind. The locked door is a mercy, forcing us forward when our hearts might cling too tightly to what is already finished. The nature of closed doors is, therefore, far more complex than simple denial. They are teachers, protectors, guides, and at times even liberators. They remind us that not every opportunity is good, not every path is safe, and not every desire is meant to be fulfilled in the way we imagine. To understand this is to find peace even when standing before what will not open. To understand this is to see that a closed door is not an enemy, but often the very thing keeping you aligned with where you are truly meant to go. The timing of the door is one of the greatest mysteries in life, because while we may know what we want, and even believe that what we desire is good and right, the moment in which it is given to us is often beyond our control. This timing feels like a puzzle that refuses to be solved, and it tests us in the deepest places of our hearts. We look at our own lives and say, surely now is the right time, surely now I am ready, and yet the door remains shut. But if there is anything consistent in the rhythm of life, it is that nothing comes too early and nothing arrives too late. The door opens exactly when it is meant to, not a moment before and not a moment after. Consider the way the universe itself runs with flawless precision. The sun does not rise early because we are patient, nor does it set late because we plead for more light. The stars do not fall out of place simply because we grow restless under the night sky. The seasons shift in their appointed time, never rushed, never delayed, but always arriving with purpose. In the same way, the opening of the door you have been waiting for is set to a time that is not random, but intentional. It may seem delayed from where you stand, but what feels like delay is often alignment. All the pieces that must come together, all the unseen arrangements, all the steps you do not yet recognize are being woven into place so that when the door opens, you will be prepared to walk through it. The hardest part is that we often measure readiness differently than heaven does. We think readiness means wanting something strongly, planning for it, or imagining ourselves within it. But true readiness often means growth in areas we would rather avoid: patience, humility, endurance, and faith. A door may remain shut because your heart is not yet steady enough to hold the weight of what is on the other side. It may remain shut because the people connected to that door are not yet ready either. Timing is not only about you. It is about the orchestration of countless lives and circumstances converging at one perfect moment. This is why rushing a door that is not meant to open yet can bring harm. If a blessing comes too early, it can turn into a burden. If an opportunity arrives before you are strong enough to carry it, it can crush you instead of lifting you higher. Think of a fruit plucked before it ripens. It looks appealing on the outside, but its taste is bitter and unsatisfying. In the same way, a door forced open before its time may appear to be a gift, but it lacks the sweetness of proper timing. What feels like waiting is often protection from bitterness. Yet, while the timing is precise, it is not passive. The waiting period is not meant for idleness. It is a space for preparation, a time to sharpen your mind, strengthen your character, and deepen your faith. If you treat the waiting as wasted, you will miss the growth that equips you to step boldly into what is ahead. The door may be closed today, but every day of patience, every act of faithfulness, every quiet choice to trust is building within you the capacity to hold what is waiting behind it. There is also an element of surprise in timing, because the door often opens when you least expect it. We imagine it coming in grand moments, yet sometimes it comes in the ordinary, slipping quietly into our days and changing everything in an instant. This is the beauty of perfect timing. It is both deliberate and unexpected, planned and surprising. When the moment finally arrives, you will see that it could not have come a day earlier or a day later. So though the waiting stretches long and the silence makes you restless, remember that timing is not against you. The delay is not punishment, it is alignment. The door you are asking for has already been written into your story, and its opening is certain. What remains is not whether it will open, but when, and that when will always prove itself to be the best moment, one that reveals the wisdom of every second you waited. The waiting season, though it feels heavy and endless, is not a wasted season. It is easy to mistake silence for abandonment, or delay for denial, but what often looks like nothing happening on the outside is the very moment when the deepest work is happening within. Waiting is the ground where strength is planted, where patience is watered, and where endurance grows roots strong enough to withstand the storms ahead. A door that is meant for you does not simply open without shaping you first. The waiting is the shaping. It prepares you for what is on the other side, because without preparation, even the best of blessings can be squandered. Think of the way a soldier trains before battle. He does not go to war the day he is chosen. He spends months, even years, building discipline, learning resilience, testing his strength, and sharpening his mind. To send him into the fight without training would be cruel, even if it seemed merciful to shorten his waiting. The same is true in life. You may be asking for a door to open, but if you walk through it today without the lessons learned in waiting, the weight of what lies beyond it could undo you. Waiting may feel like delay, but it is, in truth, a gift of protection and growth. There is also a hidden beauty in waiting that is only seen when you look back. In the moment, you see only closed doors and unanswered prayers. But later, when the door finally opens, you will realize that the waiting was a season of becoming. You were not merely passing time, you were being prepared. The lessons you learned in loneliness taught you how to stand strong. The tears you shed in private gave you compassion for others. The quiet trust you practiced built in you a faith that no storm could shake. Without the waiting, you would not have become the person able to carry what was given to you. It is also in waiting that perspective is refined. When you are forced to pause, you begin to see life differently. What once seemed urgent begins to fade in importance, while what truly matters rises to the surface. You discover that what you thought you wanted may not be what you need after all, and your heart slowly shifts toward deeper desires, greater callings, and more lasting treasures. Waiting strips away illusions, and in that stripping, it makes room for clarity. Still, waiting tests the human spirit in ways few other things can. It stretches patience until it feels unbearable. It tempts doubt to speak louder than faith, and it pushes hope to its breaking point. But in this stretching, something remarkable happens. You become stronger than you ever imagined. A person who has waited long learns perseverance that cannot be shaken. A person who has endured silence learns to listen to the quiet voice within. A person who has walked through delay without giving up carries a resilience that no disappointment can destroy. These are not small gifts. They are treasures carved into your character. You must also see that waiting is not passive. It is not sitting with folded hands and empty hearts. It is active in its own way. It is a season to prepare, to build, to learn, to grow, and to seek. If you spend your waiting bitter and idle, you miss the very purpose of the season. But if you use your waiting to deepen your faith, sharpen your skills, and nurture your soul, you will find that when the door does open, you are ready to walk through it without hesitation. The waiting then will not feel wasted, because you will see how every quiet day, every hidden moment, every prayer whispered into silence was forming you for the blessing you now hold. The waiting season is one of the most misunderstood parts of the journey, but it is also one of the most powerful. It reminds you that life is not only about arrival, but about transformation. It reminds you that strength is built in silence and character is forged in patience. And though it feels long, though it feels heavy, it is never wasted. For every second of waiting is a step in the unseen preparation for the door that will soon swing wide. The test of faith comes when you ask for a door to open and nothing seems to happen. It is in that silence, in that stillness, that the true measure of belief is revealed. Faith is not proven when everything aligns easily or when every request is answered immediately. It is proven when the handle does not move, when the key does not turn, and when the way forward remains hidden. To keep standing in front of a door that refuses to open, to keep asking even when you hear no reply, and to keep trusting when circumstances seem to mock your hope, that is the real test of faith. When you look at a locked door, there are two voices that compete within you. One says, "Give up. Clearly this will never change. Clearly you have been forgotten." The other whispers, "Hold on. Even if you cannot see it, something is at work beyond the door." Faith is choosing which voice to listen to. It is not the absence of doubt, but the decision to trust despite doubt's constant noise. Every day you choose to believe in what you cannot yet see, you pass the test a little more. Every time you resist despair and keep walking with hope, you prove that your faith is not built on circumstances but on something greater. The challenge is that this test often feels cruel. You ask yourself why the waiting must stretch so long, why the silence must be so loud. You feel the weight of unanswered prayers pressing on your heart, and your strength begins to falter. But it is precisely in these moments that faith is forged. A tree does not grow strong in calm breezes, but in resisting the storm. Muscles are not built in comfort, but through resistance. In the same way, faith deepens not when life is easy, but when life is uncertain, and yet you continue to believe. The test of faith also reveals what you truly depend on. If your hope collapses the moment circumstances shift, it was never built on a firm foundation. But if you continue to stand even when nothing makes sense, your faith shows itself to be genuine. This is why closed doors are not simply obstacles, they are mirrors, showing you what lies within your heart. Do you trust only when you see progress, or do you trust even when everything looks still? Do you believe only when answers come quickly, or do you believe when all you have is silence? These questions are not meant to condemn you but to refine you, for the test of faith is not about proving your weakness. It is about strengthening your spirit. There is also a hidden gift within this test. It shifts your focus from the door itself to the one who holds the key. When you realize that faith is not about getting what you want, but about trusting who is guiding your path, your heart finds peace even while waiting. The test of faith is not merely about the opening of a door, but about building a relationship of trust, so deep that even closed doors cannot shake it. You begin to see that your hope is not chained to outcomes, but anchored in promises that cannot fail. In time, the test of faith becomes the very thing that prepares you for what lies beyond the door. If every request were answered immediately, your trust would remain shallow, your patience thin, and your endurance weak. But because you have been tested, You emerge with a faith that is strong enough to carry the blessings waiting for you. You become a person who is not easily shaken, someone who can walk into new seasons with steady steps. What felt like the hardest test becomes the greatest training, shaping you into someone capable of holding more than you ever thought possible. And though the test is difficult, though it stretches your heart to its limits, it is never without purpose. Every unanswered prayer, every long silence, every closed door is drawing out a deeper faith within you. And when the day comes that the door finally opens, you will not only rejoice in what lies beyond it, you will also recognize the treasure that was formed within you during the test itself. The surprise of the door is something that often leaves us in awe, because what finally opens is rarely exactly what we pictured in our minds. We pray with specific requests, imagining how life should unfold, sketching the details of our hopes as if we know the best design for our story. Yet when the door swings wide, it often reveals something far greater, wider, and more beautiful than we dared to imagine. This is because our vision is small compared to the vastness of what is possible. We see only a fragment of the journey, but what awaits beyond the door is shaped by a wisdom that holds the whole picture together. Many times, we ask for what is familiar or comfortable. We pray for a door that will restore what we lost, or provide just enough to the ache we feel, or give us the stability we crave. But when the answer finally comes, it often carries more than just relief. It carries transformation. The door you long for may not lead to the exact path you asked for, but to one that takes you further than you would have ever walked on your own. What feels like a detour is often the true road. What feels like an unexpected turn is often the straightest way to where you were always meant to be. This element of surprise teaches us something vital, that the delays, the detours, and the unanswered prayers were never signs of neglect, but signs that something better was being prepared. If every request were granted in the way we asked, we would settle for less than what is possible. Our imagination, though powerful, is limited. We tend to dream within the boundaries of what we know, but the open door often breaks those boundaries and shows us a life far larger than the one we sketched for ourselves. Think of a traveler who expects a small inn at the end of a long road, but when the door finally opens, he finds himself in a vast home prepared with rooms he never thought he deserved. That is the way the surprise of the door feels. It overwhelms you, humbles you, and reminds you that what is given is not always what you asked for, but it is always what you need. Sometimes it even makes you grateful for all the other doors that never opened, because now you see that they would have kept you from arriving at this one. There is also joy in discovering that the door leads not only to blessing for you, but also to blessing for others. What opens for your life may ripple out into the lives of people you never imagined you would touch. The opportunity you thought was just for your growth may become the answer to someone else's prayer. The new chapter you step into may bring light into corners where others have been waiting in darkness. The surprise of the door is not only in its beauty, but in its reach. And sometimes the surprise is in its simplicity. We expect the opening to be dramatic, with great noise and clear signs, but often it happens quietly, in ordinary moments. A small conversation, a chance meeting, an unexpected opportunity. Suddenly the door is open, and you realize that what you long for has arrived almost without warning. This teaches us to stay awake, to keep watch, and to remain faithful in small things, because the greatest doors often open in ways that seem small at first glance. The surprise of the door also heals us from our earlier doubts. In the waiting, we may have wondered if the silence meant we were forgotten, if the closed doors meant we were unworthy. But when the right door finally opens, it answers all those questions in a single moment. It proves that the waiting was not in vain, that the delays were not abandonment, and that every moment of faith you held onto has now led to something more beautiful than you thought possible. The surprise is not only in the door itself, but in the realization that the journey, every closed path, every prayer, was always leading to this moment. The assurance of hope is what sustains you when nothing around you gives reason to keep believing. It is the quiet certainty that even when the door remains shut, it will one day open, not because of your strength or your persistence alone, but because promises made from heaven do not fail. Hope is different from wishful thinking. It is not fragile or based on chance. It is an anchor in the storm, holding you steady when winds of doubt rage. To carry hope is to walk through darkness with the conviction that light is ahead, even if you cannot yet see its glow. This assurance is what separates despair from endurance. Without hope, closed doors feel like walls that can never be moved. But with hope, you recognize that a closed door is temporary, and that the silence you hear is not empty, but filled with preparation. Hope teaches you to look beyond what your eyes can see, and to trust in what has been spoken over your life, even when every outward sign seems to disagree. It whispers to your heart, "This is not the end. Something is coming. Hold on a little longer." There will be days when this hope feels faint, when discouragement presses so heavily that you question whether you can keep waiting. On those days, the assurance of hope is not about feeling strong, but about choosing to cling to what you know rather than what you feel. Feelings shift like the tide, but hope remains steady because it is built on truth, not on emotion. You may feel weak, but hope reminds you that weakness is not the end of the story. You may feel forgotten, but hope reassures you that your prayers have not been lost. You may feel weary, but hope strengthens you with the reminder that your waiting has purpose. Hope also reshapes the way you view the present. Instead of seeing waiting as empty time, you begin to see it as sacred space. Each day becomes part of the unfolding promise, not wasted hours, but stepping stones toward fulfillment. This perspective brings peace even in delay, because you know that you are not standing still. You are being carried toward a door that is already marked for you. The assurance of hope turns restless longing into patient trust, giving meaning to every moment in between. And when the day finally comes that the door opens, hope proves itself faithful. You will look back and realize that it was hope that kept you from giving up, hope that kept you from turning away, hope that gave you strength when nothing else could. The fulfillment of the promise will be sweeter because you held on to hope in the waiting. The joy of arrival will be deeper because it was carried by endurance through the silence. Hope not only sustains you, it prepares you to fully appreciate the gift when it comes. The assurance of hope is not fragile or uncertain. It is strong, steady, and sure. It is the quiet voice that keeps you standing before the door, even when every other reason tells you to walk away. It is the reminder that what has been promised will not fail, that the silence is not the end, and that the door will open at the perfect time. And because of this, you can face every delay, every unanswered prayer, every moment of stillness with confidence. You can know, deep in your soul, that the door you are asking for will open, and it will open soon.